What is up, Better Call Saul fans? Kino here, and we're back with another reaction. I just watched the 4th episode of Season 6, Hit and Run. Now, I know that in these previous 2 videos that I've done, I've kind of gone off topic and talked about the series as a whole more than I did the individual episode. To be honest, I'm probably going to keep doing that just because, I don't know, the individual episodes don't really matter too much for me, especially in a show like Better Call Saul, which feels like each episode's not really meant to stand on its own. It's more meant to be like one part of a much bigger story, which has its pros and cons. But one of those things is like, it doesn't really matter to talk about the little details in this episode as they relate to the episode itself, because again, it's just one part of a much larger project. And so I am going to try to talk a little bit more about this episode and the things that happened. So, we open with, these 2 kind of yuppie, neighbors who are very much like the typical, calling the homeowners association when they see a house painted, the wrong color. And I'm also one of those people who I'm not really good at picking out Easter eggs or picking out a lot of times I don't recognize the stuff that I should. I recognize story structure and character moments more, but behind the scenes details or whatever, I'm not really good at seeing those things on first watch. I have no idea right now whose house that was, if it's something special or not. It kind of looked like Chuck's house a little bit, but I don't think it was. Or maybe it was, who knows. It also kind of looked like Jimmy's mansion from the flash forward. Again, I don't know if that's what they were setting up or something, but I have no idea what it means. But I do know what a lot of these story elements mean, at least in how they relate to the overall narrative. We set up this whole thing with the neighbors to kind of have a subversion for when they go into their house and we see there's guys with guns and cameras there, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? And they're watching a house, which turns out to be Gus's house. Again, I'm sure it looks like the house from Breaking Bad, but did not recognize it immediately. I only recognized it once Gus arrived at home. And later on, there's a scene where he goes into an underground bunker that goes to the neighbor's house, so he can watch his own house from the neighbor's point of view. Really thought that was stupid. I'm not saying it's impossible that he trusted his neighbors enough to have this kind of relationship with them. And again, maybe they're his relatives or something, or family, or just maybe they're someone he knows. But again, they seem so yuppie, so it seemed like they were just rich people who I guess maybe he bought them and was like, hey, here's $100,000, just let me use your house for whatever I want to. I don't know. I don't think Gus would involve civilians like that who I don't know if he could trust them that well. Regardless though, I think it's just a stupid narrative detail to put in there. What does this accomplish to have us be oh, he's watching his own house from the neighbor's house? It's I think they thought that moment would be cool when he walks into the bunker. And it was cool, but then when he pops out to the neighbor's house, I think they're thinking oh my god, this is so such a mind explosion. And I don't know, I was just really? You're doing this? It's an example of a detail I think that they wrote it thinking to be cool without necessarily thinking about the character. And also, again, seeing him go home, I didn't like that at all, because he was so mysterious in Breaking Bad. We didn't know anything about his backstory. There's the whole question of does he actually have kids or a wife or not? He tells Walt that he does. He says that the kids won't eat his little seafood stew. But we saw with Jesse there was nothing with kids there, and so it was a question of was he lying to Walt to just kind of manipulate him? And yeah, it kind of confirms it here that it doesn't look like he lives with anyone. again, we don't know for sure, but again, showing too much of Gus just kind of like takes away the mystique from him. Yeah, I didn't like seeing him too with like the bulletproof vest and like the gun. He looked too worried. And again, I understand that this is a prequel, right? He's not the same Gus that we know in Breaking Bad. He's younger. He's not as developed as he is in Breaking Bad, but he had like this air of like invincibility about him to the point where it's like you didn't know how he operated, but you know he was always going to win until Walt finally triumphed over him. But again, to see him kind of, I don't know, be worried and like not knowing where Lalo is and all this stuff, it's like it makes him look weak. And again, I get that it's okay for a prequel to have him be weaker than he is in Breaking Bad, but it's like, why do we need to see this? Why do we need to, take away this air of mystery to him for scenes that I don't think really amount to anything? Like they're trying to build this tension that like Lalo, where's Lalo? Who knows? But there's no tension because we know they don't die. We know Mike doesn't die. We know Gus doesn't die. The only one who might die is Kim, which we're going to talk about Kim's storyline in this episode. But they're trying to go for like a Breaking Bad kind of like high stakes tension, and it's not working. Like that's not what this show is set up to do well. It's set up to do like character moments really well, and they did with Jimmy in the early seasons. But it felt like the more it went on, the more and more it kind of tried to lean into like, just like Breaking Bad, like you never know what's going to happen, except we do, and it's, you're trying to force it. And again, I know people will have different opinions. Although I will say that, thanks to the comments on these YouTube videos and people I've been chatting with, a lot of people are not as impressed with Better Call Saul as I kind of thought from Reddit and stuff. Like, the Redditors they heckin' love Better Call Saul, and it's like, come on, guys, it's okay to critique something. It's okay to not be, super impressed with everything. But regardless, we also have Kim's storyline, which I want to talk about. She actually, Rhea Seehorn, I hope that's her name. I hope I didn't mispronounce it, but she directed this episode, I think, which is pretty cool to see. I'm glad that a lot of these actors get a chance to kind of shine behind the scenes too. Like Bryan Cranston directed some really good episodes of Breaking Bad. So, this episode deals a lot with her. They do the scheme with Howard, which we'll see how it turns out. I'm like, you're spending a lot of time on this. Is it going to amount to something really good, or is it just like a lot of this show is like so mechanical? It's like they want to show you every detail of the plan and how it all turns out, and it's fun a little bit, but it's like, is it going to amount to anything? We saw planning in Breaking Bad, but it was actually pretty infrequent. A lot of times they wouldn't show you all the behind the scenes stuff. And then when they did, it was to subvert it. Like the great example is, of course, Dead Freight, right? We know the plan. We know how it's going to work, how they're going to steal the methamphetamine. And they subvert it by something going wrong. They overcome it, and then, they kill Drew Sharp. So it was like, but it wasn't a whole, like, half a season plan for this thing. It was like, we saw it only in that episode. It was like 1 or 2 scenes of planning. And this show, I don't know, it just goes way too far with that. And I really do think it's Peter Gould's like, being the showrunner. From behind the scenes interviews and stuff I've seen of him, I think he's really a fan of Breaking Bad. Like, and I mean that in like, he's a fan in the sense that he like enjoys it, and he's like kind of like someone like us who just is like, oh my god, Breaking Bad's so cool. He's got a very like, I don't want to say childish like appreciation for the show, but I think so, and I don't mean that insultingly. I think that's great. You can definitely see the love that this show has for Breaking Bad. But I think that's not necessarily what you want in the showrunner, because it's like it's just trying to indulge in all the Breaking Bad stuff without it standing on its own as a strong narrative. And that's what I think Vince was much better at doing. Again, I don't want to make judgments about something that I don't know all the details about. That'll be something to kind of look into once the whole show is done and I can read articles and behind the scenes stuff. But I do think that's a problem. Like I said, though, Kim's stuff is some of the strongest the show has right now. Again, they've taken her character in a very interesting way. She's walking this line between like being a good person and being a corrupt person, encouraging Jimmy, leading him down a path of like doing bad stuff, but also, you know, now that she knows that Lalo's back in the mix, great scene with her and Mike. That's the first time they met. Although I will say that you can see Mike's age a little bit in that scene. You can see he's getting a little bit older, but don't want to get off topic. You know, is this going to be her wake up call that like, oh, we've messed with some bad stuff here, or is she going to keep going along with it? It's interesting. People keep asking me like, you know, what do you think is going to happen to Kim? And I'm like, I really thought originally she was just going to leave Jimmy. I thought that was the only thing that made sense given his character in Breaking Bad. You know, he gets like a happy ending from the massage lady. He's always hitting on what's her name? The secretary he has. He just I don't think Kim is in Breaking Bad. It doesn't make sense. As scummy as he's always been, I don't see him like cheating on her like that. If she met a really gruesome or tragic end, I don't see him being as happy-go-lucky. It really feels like the only thing that makes sense is she leaves him, or she disappears, like with the vacuum cleaner guy. But yeah, I don't know. I really just don't know where they're gonna go with her storyline. For the most part, they've gone in a way that I haven't predicted, but for the better. It's like I'm not able to like, you know, just kind of she's much more complex than I originally thought she was going to be. But it's a matter of will they tie it up in a satisfying way, or will it, you know, kind of like overwrite Saul's character in Breaking Bad? Again, I've talked about that. Again, also the fact that he's just now getting into the office. And we're like not like halfway done with season 6, but it's like, come on, we probably should have been in the office about like season 4 or 5. Like this show really should have been like scam of the week type of thing. Like I don't think it was built for this kind of like Breaking Bad style dramatic narratives. It's the same thing I talked about last time with Ignacio's storyline. It's not built up as well as it would have been in Breaking Bad because the story is it's just not set up that way. There's not the tension there because we know what happens. We know where these characters end up. And again, they've split the narrative between all these characters. And so it's just not as tightly paced. You know, I'm trying to think of what else happens in this episode that I really want to mention. The scam was stealing the car. It's like, it's fun. Like, I was like, oh, okay, he pulls the thing out of the ground and Howard doesn't notice. You know, he meets Spooge again. You know, it's kind of fun at times, but it's like, I'm always asking myself when I'm watching this, like, what are we doing here? What is this all amounting to at the end? Now, the interesting thing is, like, it's been rumored, and I don't know if it's been confirmed or not yet. I try not to read too much up on the behind the scenes stuff while it's going on, but there's an idea that it's going to cross over into the Breaking Bad timeline. I really worry about that if they do that because as we saw with El Camino, which don't worry, I'm going to talk about that eventually. You know, after enough time, it's like a lot of these actors, you know, are not in the Breaking Bad mindset anymore, and so their performances are not as good as they could be. Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston always knock it out of the park. Even in El Camino, I think that they were as good as they were in Breaking Bad. But a lot of these other actors were not, and it's like it's a question of will they, kind of faithfully be loyal to these characters, or will they not ruin them, but is it going to be like, oh, just something super indulgent that kind of overrides the storyline of Breaking Bad, and again, it's just like a pointless endeavor. Like, why do we need to see this? Or will it actually contribute to their character and understanding their character? Again, I think the early seasons of Better Call Saul really did this. We really got to understand Jimmy as a character, learn what he's all about. Even till season 5 and stuff, I felt like we were still doing that to an extent, but now it's just like, it almost feels like Jimmy's not even the main character anymore. Like, there's so much time devoted to the Mike stuff, the Gus stuff, the Lalo stuff, the Ignacio stuff. It's like, we're supposed to be seeing Jimmy and how he becomes Saul. And more so, it's becoming just an exploration of the Breaking Bad universe, which is not terrible. I still am like, oh, okay, that's cool. We're seeing his office for the first time. That's fun. We'll see. I really hope they can tie all these things together, and this wasn't just like an overindulgent like experiment in telling a story, which it kind of was, to be honest. If you even watch like Vince Gilligan talking about why they made the show, they were just like, oh, we have the crew and we have a storyline we can write. Let's just do it. And we could all be employed for another 7 years, He's fully honest about that, and I think we're seeing some of the pains with dealing with that as their kind of motivation versus Breaking Bad, where they really had like a character like journey imagined from the very beginning. So, I feel like this one I kind of rambled a little bit more than usual, but an interesting episode, and like I said, I'm always excited to see the next one. I always look forward to Mondays. So, regardless, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll check out the next episode next week.